Really? I thought Gaijin was a jerk throughout that whole thing. Like, I disagreed with him throughout all of it.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the HeyPoor Podcast. This is your host, Dead Pixels, and tonight we have a special guest. I'm here with the HeyPoorPlayer crew. Today we have Jay.
Hello!
Trevor.
Hey, Abad!
And Marius. Who do you have for us tonight?
Hey guys, tonight we have another guest, Ronnie Oni Edwards, from his own show, Digressing and Sidequesting, which is part of the Game Theorists YouTube network. So, to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your show, Oni?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So about me, I'm much more awesome than Gaijin, and about my show, it's better than Gaijin's. What else do you want to know?
That about covers it, I guess. No, tell
Okay.
our listeners.
On to fighting games.
Tell our listeners what your show is about and why they should watch it.
Well, why you should watch it? It's better than Gaijin's show, which isn't saying much, but no. So it's about taking a game design and analyzing the mechanics of games that you've probably played hundreds of times, but never really sat down and looked at. It's essentially just me talking nerdy into a microphone for 10 minutes or so with animations and stuff. And a lot of people seem to like it, so that's why you should watch it.
Okay,
Good reason.
so what did motivate you to start your own show?
Ooh, okay, that's a really complex question. I started working on the show when I got like sick with like an ear infection, a throat infection, another ear infection, a sinus infection, and like a massive headache. And I was quarantined to my apartment for like a week straight. And
That sounds painful.
yeah, and like all I could do was just lay in bed. So I decided like, oh, well, I'm laying in bed. I better start learning how to animate because I need to do something productive with my sick time. And that's kind of how the show started. After I learned how to animate a little bit, I started doing scripts and stuff and drafting character designs. And that was sort of the start, I guess, of Digressing and Sidequesting.
I guess that virus paid off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So why did you choose to make a show about game mechanics and not some rant like Angry Video Game Nerd?
Because everybody and their grandmother was doing like the angry reviews and stuff, or just like talking in front of a camera. That seems like everybody. So it'd be really hard to get noticed if I was going to do something like that. So I decided to try to do something a little bit different that hasn't been done hundreds of times before. Throw some animation in there and try to create some kind of like unique product.
So how were you able to join the Game Theorists network?
Before I even started Digressing and Sidequesting, I started working on a podcast, which is no longer with us. Moment of silence. It was called Random Internet Encounters, and I interviewed Matt Pat, the dude that does game theory. It was like way back when he first started. I interviewed him, and so we got to know each other that way. And after I started doing Digressing and Sidequesting, he took a look at the show and said, "Hey, I kind of don't totally hate what you're doing. Do you want to join the channel?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And yeah, that's how that happened.
Always a plus.
Yeah. So at first you started to release your videos at a consistent basis, but before you were picked up by MatPat, you made a break for about 6 months. Why?
Oh, I had a hard drive crash. It was like in June, I think, or May. Yeah, I had a hard drive crash and I lost everything. All the project files, and this is also during finals week of college. So that was just a lot of frustration there. And so I needed some time to sort of like get back on my feet and like redraw and re-rig everything and re-download all the software I used. And also a bunch of stuff I had to like move over the course of that 6 months. And there's just a bunch of stuff that I had to get out of the way before I started working on the show again. And so that's why there was like a 6-month hiatus last year.
Oh, it's good that you go back up. Your show was pretty good at the ending with the Shmups episode. So, do you have some tips for people which want to start their own YouTube show?
Don't be afraid to suck, because you're going to suck for quite a long time until you can nail down your style. That's probably something that seems universal, that like no matter what you do, you're going to suck when you start out. And don't be afraid to suck. It's kind of awkward advice, I know.
Yeah. So for the last most important question of this interview, what are your top three video games?
Ooh, top three. That kind of changes depending on the week. I really, really liked No More Heroes 1 and 2. Um, and another one I played recently that I really liked was Earthbound. But I'd probably say like my gamiest game that I've ever just like
Gamed?
went, yeah, that I've ever gamed in the gaming era of games, was probably Braid. That game is, I'm gonna do an episode about that game.
Awesome.
So I don't want to ruin all my talking points, but that game's just brilliant.
Yeah, I actually haven't played Braid myself, but I heard about the ending, and yeah, my mind was blown. That's pretty clever.
The ending is just like the cherry on top. There's so much more awesome stuff.
Yeah.
It's
They,
on PC, so like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's that.
So let's not spoil our listeners. So you previously mentioned to me on an email you're a pretty big Kid Icarus fanboy. So what do you think is so special about the game? And did you play the Game Boy game?
Oh yeah, yeah. I played all the Kid Icarus games. Um, I really like a lot of the concepts in the first one. It was sort of like an action RPG. A lot of it really sucked though, but I sort of appreciate it for what it is and what it was trying to do. And it's like Zelda 2 done a little bit better, in my opinion.
Mm.
And of Myths and Monsters sort of took that idea and expanded upon it and added a few extra mechanics in there. And but it wasn't quite perfect. Of Myths and Monsters is a Game Boy game for those of you that don't know. And then Uprising was just a good 3DS game altogether. I
Yeah,
think that's like
Uprising.
universe. What?
Uprising kind of wasn't really a Kid Icarus game. It kind of changed it into a whole new IP, wouldn't you say?
I'd say it did a great job of updating it. Like it kept the
Mm.
game's weird sense of humor. Uh, it very much like I could see Kid Icarus progressing to that if it had more games along the way, like Zelda. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Did you know the Game Boy game wasn't even released in Japan, its land of origin, and it's pretty expensive if you get it over there. You can sell it for 100 tap.
Oh wow. I didn't know about the price, but yeah, I knew it wasn't released in Japan, and I thought that was weird.
Yeah, so I guess this covers it all. Francis, why don't you now lead us into our main topic for tonight?
well, kick,
Fighting
punch, it's
games.
all in the mind. Today we're going to talk about some fighting games. Fighting games had a pretty humble start with games like Karate Champ and Pit Fighter. Oh, Pit Fighter, where the basic mechanics were pretty stiff and rigid. Ronnie had spoken about Karate Champ actually in his video on symmetry and asymmetry in gaming. It's interesting to see the way that over the course of the years the genre has progressed with games like Street Fighter introducing projectiles, more asymmetrical move sets where you actually have to learn all of your characters, dozens of abilities to become an efficient fighter, whereas you're not just functioning on punching, kicking, sweeping, and jump kicking. Um, really, what are some of your guys' favorite fighting games?
Uh, some of my favorites. I really liked Super Street Fighter 4 AE. Um, that seems like a pretty good title. But growing up, my favorite fighting game was always Super Street Fighter 2. That holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I played the hell out of that on Super Nintendo, and again, that was pretty much within the early '90s, the fighting game boom. That was the game that everyone seemed to gravitate towards. Just the roster of characters was so varied and so creative, and anyone who had played the original Street Fighter, that's another dud. But you really just get to see the possibilities the genre offered. And as Marius was saying, the inspiration for many of the characters is pretty interesting. Coming from, what was it, JoJo, you said, Marius?
Yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a long-running shonen manga series.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, why not? So, Guile from Street Fighter is actually based on Rudolf von Stroheim, a Nazi in the second part of JoJo. And Rose is also based on a JoJo character called Lisa Lisa, which is also featured in the second part. I don't know how to pronounce this character. Dhalsim. How do you
Nobody
pronounce
knows
it?
his name.
Awesome.
Nobody knows his name. Okay, the Street Fighter character without his name is actually based on a prisoner the Nazis used in JoJo uh, for experiment for experiments. So. And I don't really want to go into more details on this, but some characters in King of Fighters and Guilty Gear are also based on JoJo characters.
Interesting. Very interesting. I have to look that up. Now, while we got you, what are some of your favorite fighting games and why, Marius?
So I would say I have one retro favorite fighting game and one modern. My modern one would be the Persona 4 Arena because it's just a great idea
Oh, so good.
to take my favorite RPG series and mix it with Arc System Works, and the Persona mechanics are just great.
Yeah,
And
I have to say it kind of fit like a glove too. The Guilty Gear style fused with Persona. Really, I mean, you couldn't have thought of uh, two franchises that were more different, but they fit together so well. Just with the over-the-top action, the colorful graphics, the high-res sprites. Really, I think it was a perfect fit, and it works phenomenally for the game. It really does.
yeah, and my retro favorite fighting game is Guy's Fighter. I would call it the Dead or Alive of the 90s. It's a game released on the Neo Geo Pocket, which features all female characters from all fighting games back then, like Street Fighter and all SNK fighting games. And it's just a great game. And if you think they could pull this off with only two buttons, I would say it's even better than SNK versus Capcom, also on the Neo Geo Pocket. Have you
Yeah,
ever
but
played this one?
nothing can hold a candle to Match of the Millennium. That was a fantastic game for the Neo Geo Pocket.
Well, I think it's better.
Do you?
Yeah.
Huh. How about you, Trevor?
Um, I never really got into Street Fighter. Honestly, I was more of a Mortal Kombat fan around that time. Um, and after that, I transitioned into the more 3D fighters. Like I remember actually playing Virtual Fighter on the 32X when it first came out because I had a friend who had that, and I just thought that this was amazing. I was like, this is the future. Um, so I've always been a fan of like the Tekken and Virtual Fighter style fighters more than the more 2D like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. And I also like some of the more quirky ones like Power Stone and one for PlayStation called Poi Poi.
Poi Poi.
Yeah, Poi Poi.
Enlighten me. Enlighten me. I've never heard of Poi Poi.
It's set up like a wacky Japanese game show, but basically it's four people in this arena, and the gimmick is everyone has like a magic glove, and you pick up these items, and you can either just chunk the item at your opponents, or use some of your glove power to give it like special things, like some of them bounce, some of them will like go up in the air and disappear and appear over the enemy's head, and things like that, and it's basically just the last man standing wins the match.
Nice. And what is this, 3D arena based?
Yeah, it's 3D polygons and early 3D polygons. So the graphics are pretty dated, but the gameplay is fun as hell.
The way you're describing it, I'm almost picturing Power Stone in a way.
Yeah, it is very similar to how Power Stone works.
Excellent. How about you, Jay?
Well, fighting, I'm kind of the odd man out here. Fighting games have never really been a big thing for me. I've always been kind of fighting game illiterate. Like, it's just never really clicked for me. But I can think of a couple 2D and 3D ones that I like. Like, obviously, being the big Nintendo guy, Smash Brothers, of course, for what that counts as a fighter. One 2D one that really stands out to me is Skullgirls, which came out last year. That was one of my favorite games of last year. It is a hard fighting game going through the single player, but something about just the charm of that game. Like, I've talked about before how I'm a sucker for good, like, visuals and stylistic stuff in games. And the characters in that all handle really smoothly. I just liked the way that played for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a lot of other games you could compare that to and say it's very similar to, but that's just one that clicked for me. In terms of 3D fighters, I've always liked the Soul Calibur series. I'm a little bit with Trevor that I tend to enjoy 3D fighters a little more than 2D fighters. And Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube comes to mind as just a really great fighter that I spent a lot of time with.
Yeah, it's such a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I myself, I don't know. I loved Street Fighter to death, as I said before. I've always, I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this already know this. I've talked about it a million times, but I'm a pretty big Neo Geo fanboy. Got a couple Neo Geo cabs at the house. I got my AES. I was always more of a King of Fighters man myself. I don't know if it's just because I'm a big fan of the team-based mechanic, and I love, just the charisma a lot of the groups have, the way they work together. It's just, I liked playing through the character stories with all the teams. The rosters were absolutely huge. I like the tag in, tag out features that were introduced later in the series. I get a big kick out of them. The Capcom team-based fighters as well, like the X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom. So I played a lot of those. Also, I'm really big in the weapons-based fighters, but more so 2D than 3D. I kind of have a beef with 3D fighters. I feel like the hitboxes are a little too loose. It seems like you can just kind of spam buttons, willy-nilly, and you're going to win a fight. Obviously, one player, a little more practice than another. I'm sure that it's just my qualm with the genre that probably makes me think that way. But in general, I don't like the loose feel of them. I like that 2D fighters for me are more of a chess match. You learn your move set. I turtle a lot, and everything's a little more rigid. I prefer it that way. I'm, again, really big into weapons-based fighters. The Last Blade series. Has anyone played those games?
No, I did not.
It's a lot like Samurai Showdown, but in that there's actually a deflect button instead rather than block. You can do a standard block, but your deflect actually stuns your opponent for a second. You can move in for a strike. It's all about timing. You have your typical Street Fighter style movesets, your projectiles, things like that. But phenomenal games. It's really underrated series. Anyone who likes Samurai Showdown and likes Street Fighter, it's a perfect fusion of the two, and I definitely can't recommend it enough. Moving on with fighting games, another thing I'd like to cover is just the fact that, the changes in the genre. Like, you see after Street Fighter 2 came out, you had a million clones. World Heroes, Power Stone, not Power Stone, Power Instinct, Art of Fighting. A lot of them pretty subpar. Then you get Mortal Kombat. Everyone was violence obsessed. You see so many different. Typically, one thing I noticed also I just want to add is you take these games, and I wanted to talk about this in our Super Nintendo episode we were going to record the other day. But people loved Mortal Kombat to death in the 90s, but the Super Nintendo port comes out with the sweat, and you realize that Mortal Kombat is just a middling experience. It's somewhere between Pit Fighter and Street Fighter. It's really just a god-awful game when you strip out the gore. But you did see some games that were inspired by the gore that actually tried to do something pretty decent. I wouldn't call it a great game, but Time Killers. Did anyone ever give that a shot?
I've heard of it. I've never played it.
Well, the premise is it's a weapons-based fighter, but you can actually dismember your opponents and they'll continue to fight. You have a guy who's got a pretty decent sword attack, you hack his arm off, you don't have to worry about that anymore, and you actually do put him at a disadvantage. Cut off their leg, they're hindered. Cut off their head, they're dead. It wasn't a great game, but it introduced a pretty cool mechanic. Another game that takes that a step further, I'd like to say, is the Bushido Blade series, and I'm sure some of you guys have played those.
Yeah.
Takes the factor of taking someone's limb off and crippling them. Instead, you have to worry about getting slashed once and you're dead. Not many fighting games really have that anymore. Like, you look at Soul Calibur, and that's probably my biggest turnoff to those games is the fact that you have a character like Astaroth, who's ginormous, and he can hit you upside the head with an axe the size of a Buick, and you just get up swinging. I don't know. I can't take that seriously. Kind of puts me off to those games, but I really enjoyed the strategic gameplay of the Bushido Blade series, where every slash matters, and you really have to think about what you're doing. Is it worth rushing in? Do you want to turtle? Do you want to lead your opponent somewhere and ambush them? I would love to see another Bushido Blade game, but I really don't know.
I do have a quick comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you turned off on Street Fighter 2 when Zangief does a spinning pile driver and breaks somebody's neck?
I don't like being on the business end of that, but no, not as much. I think it's just the image of the Buick-sized axe hitting you in the face and you getting up with a quarter of your health.
I think it's mainly because of the art style of Street Fighter 2 is more comic booky, so you kind of accept that the person can just get up and continue the fight after being on the receiving end of that.
When someone's whacking you with a katana and it's like they're hitting you in the wrist with one of those slap bracelets, it's hard to suspend your disbelief there.
The Soul Calibur series never really seemed to be all that realistic to me. People with anime haircuts and giant blunt swords. It kind of seemed to have that same cartoonish effect for me, anyways. But I can see where you're coming from, though, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, getting whacked with a sword and you see some spark. It just, why do we even need swords at that point? Like, really, if you're not doing any more damage and giving somebody Indian rug burn, it's.
I do have a quick, like, the reason why they have weapons is because it makes the mechanics work a lot better with the vertical and horizontal slashes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm adjusting my nerd glasses right now, but actually,
Your geek is showing.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I do, but again, it's just one of those things that always nagged me a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still played the hell out of Soul Calibur, and I mean, I own a Soul Edge machine, and I enjoyed that very much too.
Seriously?
But at the same time, again, I don't know. It just puts me off a little bit. All right, so the main draw of fighting games also is everybody gets attached to their own favorite characters. Now, I'd like to know, what are some of your guys' favorite characters in fighting games? What are some teams that you like in team-based games as well?
I think Guilty Gear always had like really cool characters. Like you have like a possessed dude and a giant military guy. Yeah, that game always had cool characters to me.
Sure.
For me, I kind of just go back to Skullgirls again. Like for me, the characters are what defined that game as a unique fighting game. Because like so many of the modern fighting games we see are stuff like Smash Brothers or the PlayStation Battle Royale, or newer fighting game ideas are usually like either stuff like that or stuff like the Marvel vs. Capcom games, where it's kind of just based on existing properties. It was just very refreshing to see a modern fighting game with unique characters, and pretty much all the characters in Skullgirls kind of made that game for me. I can't really narrow it down to a specific one that I can think of, except Double. Double was awesome because Double is an enormous mass of like genetically fused parts based on like the Mother Mary of Christianity, and like she'll just turn into the other characters for different moves, and I thought she was awesome.
That's pretty cool. I get the Shang Tsung vibe from that.
Yeah.
I usually like characters which allow you to stay away from your enemy, like Ness from the Mother games, which is in the Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo consoles. You can use him to get away from your enemies and also to stun your enemies from far away. He's pretty good in that regard. And I also like Yukiko from the Persona 4 Arena series, because she basically allows you the same but with healing, which is actually extremely good. Just get away from your enemy as fast as you can and heal. So once they get to you, you're full up.
So you're the kind of guy who likes to just hang out off screen and just spam the hell out of projectiles.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I can't find my
the
Persona
kind of
disc. You're the kind of guy I don't play against.
Yeah.
Well, I don't only spam. I mean, I also use my persona. I mean, it's also a persona which you can send away from you, so it beats.
Yeah, it's a
sometimes.
valid strategy.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate
Smash
strategy. It doesn't
Brothers.
make you any less annoying, but
I don't let it close to me.
No, you mentioned Smash Brothers, and that reminded me of Lucario from Brawl is one of my go-to characters, because I don't know, the way I play fighting games is weird, where I will get the shit beaten out of me for the first couple minutes, then I start coming back hitting hard. And Lucario is a perfect character for that because he gets stronger the more damage he has taken without getting knocked out of the ring. So if I take a ton of damage, like if I'm at like 212%, but I'm still in the ring, my attacks will start getting crazy strong, and I can really come back with a vengeance. So
right.
that's another character for me that I can
kind of
think
like a berserker mechanic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite characters, I kind of gravitate more towards the characters that have like a stance change. For instance, like Helena from Dead or Alive. She has her normal stance and then that kind of crouching stance that she can do a whole new set of combos and stuff from. And like Ivy from Soul Calibur, because she has different stances with, she'll have like her sword and then the whip out just kind of limp, and then another stance with her kind of just twirling it, and each one can have a different whole group of combos that you can do, and I love being able to throw my opponents off by just switching stances like that.
Yeah, that's always pretty awesome. Yeah, I myself, I'm a big fan of Team Akari from the King of Fighters series. Particularly, I really enjoy the lineup from 98, and I think it was 96 through 98 with Ralph, Clark, and Leona. Just awesome lineup of characters. You had Clark and Ralph, who were just complete grappling brawlers who could just decimate your opponent's health bar. And then Leona, army brat, who runs up and sticks you with a fucking flare and you explode. That's badass. And she does a little salute before you go flying up there like the 4th of July. Love her to death. Awesome, awesome character. I also pretty big fan of Shikyo from Last Blade. He's just a complete mass murdering psychopath with a giant dual-bladed sword, almost like Darth Maul, only just had a more like I guess a spear or scimitar look to it on either end. It looks insane, and he is just completely devastating. Just a really, really badass character. Really, I've never really been a huge Smash Brothers fan, but I do have to admit that my 5-year-old makes me play it quite a bit. And I'm also pretty fond of Ganondorf because the goddamn boot. You kick someone in the forehead and they go flying. And that's a really satisfying feeling. Of course, and I feel like I'm kicking a 5-year-old because I always play against my son and I let him beat me. So I haven't fully explored my Ganondorf abilities, but he's a pretty fun character to play as nonetheless.
You should try Falcon with Falcon Punch. It's basically the same.
Punch!
Yeah, but only faster than
No,
Ganondorf.
I don't need him running around saying that.
Come on!
Come on! Falcon Punch! Awesome.
So, what are your thoughts on clone characters, which are just to introduce new characters which are basically the same but only have like another special attack?
Can we fucking retire the Shotos? That's all I have to say. We don't need Sakura, Ken, Dan, Ryu. It gets so tiresome. And I mean, especially you look at the early, like the Mortal Kombat games and such, where you only have 8 characters and 2 of them are palette swaps. Well, you're really thinning the herd there.
Even the thing with Mortal Kombat 1 is like everybody was the same character, just reskinned almost.
Reskinned. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe like one different special move that acted differently from everybody else's. Like, yeah.
Yeah, in Smash Brothers there are like 3 characters which are almost the same. Fox, then the Black Fox, and the bird, which I don't remember the name of.
Fox,
Wolf, and Falco.
Yeah, Wolf and Falco
Okay.
and the Black Falco.
I don't really want to be that guy, but I'd say like Fox, Falco, and Wolf are just different enough in Brawl to be like different characters.
Yeah.
It's the difference between like Goken and Ryu from Street Fighter. It looks similar at a surface level, but once you get into it, they are pretty different characters.
mechanics. Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
more
yeah,
different
they're-
than Mario and Dr. Mario from Melee.
Yeah. Well, Melee was a rushed game, so like that's kind of the excuse there.
Yeah, their Smash moves are what set them apart a lot. There's some other characters like that in there, I'm sure.
Now, I think one thing that really started to set the genre apart was the introduction of your special meter. I think that really changed things up. It was a balancing tool, I think, where especially you look at games like I don't know, off the top of my head, Garo Mark of the Wolves. A quick double quarter circle motion and punch, and you have a move that can take away 2/3 of your opponent's health. I mean, completely devastating. It made it so that expert gamers, can play against intermediate gamers, and they'll still have a little bit of a fighting chance if they can time it right. A lot of
Are you
people
okay?
Are you okay? Bassa Wolf! Come on. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that really changed the dynamic of the way that fighting games play out. Again, it gives the people who aren't as experienced a little bit of a fair chance. And you also, you find a lot more people playing conservatively to build those meters up and do a flashy finish. And I think it just added an extra layer that I really enjoy, but I know a lot of people get tired of, especially... I found it a lot playing Street Fighter 4, where people are just like, all you do is fucking spam your ultra combo. I'm done with you. They never said that to me, though.
Special meters and revenge meters certainly do change battle dynamics. Actually, I mentioned this in my newest episode of DNSQ, plug. But yeah, there's a lot of small changes you can make to a fighting game that will have drastic consequences down the pipeline. Which is also a really interesting thing about the genre as a whole. I was going somewhere with that, and I don't know where.
It's okay. We can edit. I mean, it's also.
Editing.
I was expecting like one of you to jump in and be like, "Oh yeah, Ronnie, you're a genius."
That.
Wow.
There is something which sets which sets the fan base of fighting gamers apart. Some love it, some hate it. It's 3D fighting games. like the virtual fighter games by Sega, the Dead or Alive fighting games, and all the others. What are your thoughts on those? Not just 2.5D like Street Fighter 4, I mean fully 3D, walking around in a ring, trying to get the other person out of the ring or just killing them.
I can't really think of a great deal of full 3D fighting games aside from what was mentioned earlier with let's
Soul
say
Calibur.
Bushido Blade or Power Stone. I mean, it's hard to argue that Dead or Alive would be a 3D fighting game.
Well, you still have like a
Um,
sidestep. I mean, I think Virtua Fighter, Tekken, and
Yeah.
Dead or Alive, and Soul Calibur are good
And
instances of
that
3D because they're totally different from Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, or
yeah,
King
I
of
think
Fighters, that kind of game.
the reason why
Right.
you can't think of too many 3D fighting games is because most of them aren't done really well. One game that I think really nailed the mechanics would have been Soul Calibur, because you have a vertical slash, which gives you advantage to step back, or
Right.
like a horizontal slash. So if you sidestep into a horizontal slash, then you don't do anything, but you can sidestep a vertical slash.
Right.
So it gives you incentive to start stepping around, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why SC2 was so popular.
Yeah,
Um,
personally, I just find like most of the times when I'm playing Soul Calibur, and I say 3D fighters, I do mean just Soul Calibur. I don't even know if I've played any others off the top of my head. But when I play Soul Calibur, I just feel like there's definitely some extra level of tactileness or just some extra level of depth to the gameplay that makes me enjoy it more than something like Street Fighter or anything like that, Mortal Kombat.
well, the thing about that is it also removes a few, like a level of depth somewhere else, like projectiles then become
Sure.
almost useless, or they
Yeah,
become overpowered, depending.
I don't
Uh,
particularly like projectile use in fighting games when it can be avoided, honestly, so I'm fine with that.
oh yeah, I mean, like, different strokes for different folks, for sure.
Yeah.
Francis, did you play any of the recent Dead or Alive games?
To tell you the truth, I haven't really played much past 4.
Well, because in the newer games, it's not only sidestepping, it's entirely based around moving in the 3D space.
Right.
Because you need to get to kick the people through walls, to kick them into something electric, or just to get them trapped behind some kind of bush, which they can't get out of, so you can kill them. And in Dead or Alive fighting games, some matches even end after like 10 seconds, because you trap them right at the beginning. It's pretty much get away from your enemy and try to trap them or get into another room because
Right.
if you kick them out of a stage, you can get in an entirely different stage. And in the
It
newest,
still seems to me like a glorified ring out, though, when you look at it that way.
yeah, it kind of is.
Did any of you guys ever play Fighter's History? Or not Fighter's History, Fighter's Destiny. Sorry.
For the N64,
Yeah, for the 64.
Yes.
it had some cool RPG mechanics, I thought. You could that
What,
was one where you could build up your character, correct? And
yeah, that was really interesting for sure.
I
Anyway,
yeah, sorry.
it was like Karate Champ, but in 3D,
right.
which is weird. Not a lot of games do it that way. Sorry, that's just like an interesting 3D game that I was thinking of.
Oh no, it's definitely noteworthy. I mean, again, I don't think many fighting games have really tried to imitate that. I don't see why not. I mean, it's nice to have that depth, but it seems as far as that goes, the most you're getting nowadays is a creative fighter function like in Soul Calibur. They don't really so much work towards actually building up your character so much as just you giving them the moveset you wish to give them, and it's a shame. I mean, it's a little more superficial than what they did in Fighters Destiny, and I would like to see that done more often. But as it's been, what, 15 years since that came out, I don't know what the chances are. Well, I think that about covers fighting games now. Marius, you had some news you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, a few to be exact. So I have something about Psychonauts 2. I know many of you are pretty excited for that game because it's finally getting made. Guess what? It is not getting made. So Notch, the creator of Minecraft, just announced he had thought he's going to give them a couple of $1 million to get the game made. But the creators of Psychonauts 2 meant by couple 18 millions, while he thought like 2 or 3, which is a pretty big difference. And the Tim Schafer, the founder and chief executive of Double Fine, confirmed this by saying, "Yeah, I think I gave Marcus a heart attack when I told him about what it will cost." So I guess that's it for Psychonauts 2. We sadly won't see it unless they find someone else who is going to give them money.
You think
That's
they
a
can raise
shame, but
18 million on
that's an
Kickstarter?
ongoing saga. I really don't think that many people actually thought this was going to come to fruition.
Yeah, I honestly didn't. I don't know. I didn't really particularly see it going that well, honestly. Like, Psychonauts, the first game, it seemed like it was kind of a sleeper hit, like something like a cult classic.
Yeah,
But like
absolutely.
people definitely like it, but it just never really reached mainstream success. And I just wouldn't be surprised if the amount funneled into the proposed budget of Psychonauts 2 would just not really reach how much the game would actually make anyway.
I don't know. I mean, that kind of goes into something that's probably too big of a topic for this podcast, but it's like
Yeah.
gamers keep saying, "Oh, I want something new and different." Well, Psychonauts was new and different, and no one bought it. So make up
True.
your damn minds.
Well,
Gamers.
really, I mean, look at Brutal Legend. When is the last time you really saw a 3D platformer turn a profit, or was really? I mean, they're always pretty critically successful. I mean, I know that Brutal Legend was hit or miss among reviewers, but I can't think of the last time one really set the world afire since Banjo-Kazooie maybe. It just seems like that genre is kind of
Well, they did get kind of a resurgence on the PS2 with the Jack and Daxter and Ratchet
Jack and
Clank
Daxter,
series.
yeah.
And Sly Cooper, which just I think didn't they just
Yeah.
release Sly
A new
4
game
on
that
the
was
PS3?
just released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is still a market there, and I think I don't know, it's kind of like the adventure games. Those were dying out for a while too, but now that the increased exposure of like Walking Dead seems to like a lot more people are
Yeah.
getting into adventure games now again.
Right.
We also have a new Mario Kart game coming up. It's not the Wii U game everyone is waiting for. It is a new arcade Mario Kart game made by Namco Bandai, which made the two previous Mario Kart arcade games. And they're going to resume the work with this new title, and it's going to be called Mario Kart Arcade Grand Prix DX. And it's going to feature many of the innovations of the other games, like the gliding and underwater mechanics from Mario Kart 7, and the core play of the Double Dash series, which
My-
I wanted to see come. Cut this out. I want to see this mechanic coming back for a longer time, because I always liked how Double Dash was handled.
Mm.
Now, my question is it going to feature the bitchin' dash cam that all the other arcade iterations featured?
Yes, it will.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
I was surprised by this because like are Japanese arcades even still something that pulls in a lot of attention or money at this point?
I think that the Taito arcade had closed down. The
Hmm.
one in Akihabara.
I think I
Really?
remember Gaijin mentioning last week that in his opinion the Japanese arcade is dying fast, and I mean he's seen firsthand example of that. I just can't imagine it doing that much better in Japan than it is here. I mean it's dying here in the States too, no doubt about it.
From what I
Yeah,
understand, gaming in general is really. I'm sorry, what was that, Ron?
But I was gonna say, I hear like rhythm games and whatnot are kind of the only thing that you'll find in Japanese arcades these days.
Mm,
Pretty
Like
much the
Rhythm
same
Heaven
here.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe if it dies down before the game gets released, we are going to see a port for the Wii U or even 3DS.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, really, I mean, where do developers really seem to think they're going to turn a profit on arcade games anymore when the
Well,
hardware
arcade
is...
games, it's only the hardware which is going to give money to the developers. Everything else is only to the arcades themselves.
Well,
So
yeah,
if
absolutely.
arcades buy 10 of these $10,000 expensive cabinets, it's
Yeah,
going.
but how many of these
Oh, yeah.
arcades can actually afford these cabinets? That's why the
Exactly.
arcade games crashed in the U.S. is the fact that you started to see these machines costing operators between $5,000 and $10,000, and really, I mean,
Yeah.
gamers could have the same experience at home on their console. They ended up going to their consoles, and people who spent arcades who spent all these money on the cab sat there, with a huge hole in their pockets.
Exactly. That's why, like, my local arcade in the mall by my house, the last time they bought anything new for that arcade was probably almost a decade ago, and that was, like, just a new skee ball machine. Like, arcades don't pull in. It's a problem of the actual amount of money being made at the arcades, which just isn't anything at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go into the arcade if I really want to play Soul Calibur 3 for some reason, or I really want to try and get some fucking plushie, which is never.
Now, I think the fact of the matter is the only arcades that are really going to pull any revenue are arcades that are geared towards nostalgic gamers. Those are the diehards. Those are the people who will keep coming back. I don't think arcade games today really have the substance that pulls gamers in any longer. I mean, just when we were kids, it was an entirely different environment. You look at kids now, a lot of them are like, what the hell's an arcade machine? You know, they don't have the interest in it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, sorry,
No, go
did you
ahead.
have another point? Yeah,
No, you're
well,
fine.
the thing is, like, arcades have always been geared around offering something that you can't get at home. But,
Right.
like, today, you can get
can
almost
now.
anything at home now. You can get your, like, weird controllers, your dance mats, your Guitar Heroes. So, it seems like arcades now are only, like, geared towards, like, the racing game where you have a steering wheel and whatnot. It's all, like, it's authentic. You can't get this at home. And, yeah, that sort
Yeah.
of thing. Arcade cabinets tend, like, nowadays, newer arcade cabinets tend to have, like, weird controllers that you can't get at home. But then nobody really wants to play it at that rate.
No.
Yeah.
Well, for them to get this, to resurrect this market, they should take something like the Neo Geo and make a whole new machine, which is like a console, which you can buy games on discs for like 100 to 200 bucks and put them in, and that's going to make with a lot of exclusive titles. I mean, who is going to play a Mario Kart game if they can play Mario Kart at home? I mean, the only difference from this title really is the inclusion of Pac-Man and the Taekwondo Drum Master mascot.
So what you're saying is kind of multi-game arcade cabinets, right? Like where they can get a certain number of cabinets and be able to change games over the years, so they can sort of keep fresh things coming without necessarily having to pay as much money for each new thing they put in.
Yeah,
Right. There's
maybe.
no
That was the
cabinets.
idea of the JAMA standard to begin with. I mean, that's why they integrated the JAMA system in, 1990, is because they wanted a uniform system where you could swap any game through any cabinet. I don't think something like that's actually really going to
And what
light
about
the
something
arcade
like
fire
the
all over
OnLive?
again. I'm sorry?
What about something like the OnLive, which people have to pay monthly fees to get the games, like let's say 100, 200 bucks a month, and then the customers can select through 100 games and can choose the one they want to play on the cabinet.
How would that translate into an arcade? Well, I suppose it could, yeah.
I don't see many operators being interested in that. Just that's my perspective.
Yeah, I don't really see many companies being interested in that. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
they tend to
Why
play a little bit
isolate your
safer
base
than that.
like that? Why do that?
I'm
when
not
you
saying
could
that it's a
be-
bad idea. I'm just saying that, like, the business heads probably won't invest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
gone past
this-
the point of no return
Right.
at this point, I think.
Yeah. Well, I can't really judge it because arcades were never a thing in Germany, so
Right.
yeah.
And that's why I go back to what I said earlier about I think that the only way arcades can be successful, and I have a fantastic 80s themed arcade by my house. I swear it's my mecca. I pray to it twice a day facing its compass direction. It's a fantastic place. It really is. But really, the only experience that is different from what you could play on, say, fuck it, a ROM box, is the experience of standing shoulder to shoulder with your friend at a cabinet and just, reliving it. You had to be there to really appreciate it. Because really, I mean, ever since MAME, have you guys really had much fun on MAME, or do you feel like you're kind of looking to fill that hole? It's not a perfect substitute, guys, and that's why people enjoy arcade games, I think, is the memories. And you can't replicate that on a console. And
Yeah.
the kids
Yeah.
today, they never really had that. So I really don't see arcade
That's
games just
considered.
suddenly having a resurgence. Because,
Yeah.
what's that, Jay?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think there is a way for arcades to sort of, or the idea of the arcade to evolve. Well, like you're saying, once upon a time, the arcade meant something. Like the arcade, back when there was no such thing as online play and stuff, the arcade was a cool thing. You could get together with your buddies and like have a miniature fighting game tournament in the middle of a place where there's friggin' pizza a block away, whatever. It was
Yeah,
a cool
or like
idea.
get together with strangers and have that sense of camaraderie. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, that whole
I
quarters
think
up
there-
attitude.
yeah.
I think there are ways to sort of evolve the theory of the arcade. Like there's a place not too far from my house that I go to every now and then called Gigawatts. Gigawatts is basically they have about like a dozen gaming PCs, great Alienware quality. a dozen 360s, all with individual screens, and like 3 big suites with like every console you can imagine. They even have some old retro stuff.
Do they have
And
cameras in
basically-
the back?
What?
Keep going.
All right, so basically what
Slotting.
it is you can go in there and pay a little bit an hour to just come in and play games by yourself or with friends or whatever you want to do. They have, they update their library as frequently as possible. You can bring in your own like Xbox hard drive. You can save on the PCs. You can save stuff to your own
Right.
individual account. It's kind of like their own private Steam network almost.
It's almost
And
like
they
the
even do,
evolution of a cyber cafe.
Kind of, yeah. It's like a fusion of the cyber cafe, and yeah, it is because they have like monster stock in the fridge. They order pizza now and then. They even do like all-nighter lock-ins every month where you pay $20, go in from midnight to 8 a.m. and just play games nonstop. I even did a private lock-in for my birthday a couple weeks ago, which was amazing. And yeah, I think that's kind of an evolution of the arcade in a way. It's like an evolution of the arcade fused with like a internet cafe kind of.
Right.
It's interesting to see there are ways for it to evolve. I think people just need to think a little more outside the box like that in terms of how to get it to evolve. I think the arcades that we have are going to die, but more places like Gigawatts do have a way to spring up, definitely.
I do
yeah,
enjoy
think...
the fact that I'm sorry, Ronnie?
Oh, no, you go ahead. I've been...
No, I was just going to say I enjoy the fact that our news segment became an arcade discussion.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, should we move on, or...
No, I mean...
I have a pretty good way to change to the next topic, if you want me to.
Sure.
Go for it.
So, let's go from a dead industry to one which is going to get born pretty soon. It's the industry for casual games on consoles. Not like the Wii, but more like a phone. I'm talking about the Ouya. The CEO Uli Uhrmann of Ouya unveiled the official release date of the gaming console. So it's going to release in April if you have kickstarted it. And if you don't kickstart it, you're going to be able to get it by GameStop, Target, Best Buy, and Amazon.com on... Oh, it just says summer. Yeah. How should I end this?
Just go back in.
I actually do have something to add to the Ouya discussion. I heard recently...
Give me a second, I have a good ending for this.
Oh, my bad.
And if you haven't kickstarted it, you're going to be able to get it at GameStop, Target, Best Buy, and Amazon for $99 this summer. So what are you...
debunks my theory about it not being available in brick and mortar establishments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if GameStop is on board, I'm actually surprised about that.
I'm shocked, honestly.
I can't imagine them selling anything where they're not getting a cut of the profits for the software.
Right.
Yeah. I would have expected to see more independent, smaller stores carrying it. Like there's a couple independent game stores around me that carry like the Retro Duo and stuff like that, just other consoles like that. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly shocked that GameStop would be willing to invest in that. I mean, I guess it makes sense that the mobile market, the thought of supplying something that would play games to a mobile market, which is one of the most profitable markets right now.
Yeah,
would be something GameStop would be interested in, but it still surprises me.
Well, on that note,
yeah,
GameStop,
it was contrary to how they make money. What's that, Trevor?
For a few months now, I think for the better part of a year, GameStop has started accepting things like iPads and tablets and stuff as trade-ins to sell in their stores.
Yeah.
So
right,
it does kind of make sense that they would still be getting into that whole mobile game market, even if they're not selling games.
I suppose. Part of why I find it a little bit odd is that when they sell any other console, they're guaranteeing that you're probably going to come back there and buy their dumb overpriced used games.
Right.
But with the Ouya, there's no guarantee of that. But I guess I don't know. I guess it's just a general thing to help them make more money and try something new, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, digital distribution is, the bane of GameStop's existence, really. I mean...
Didn't GameStop say they wanted to do something like digital used games where you can...
They actually do now, come to think of it, and that answers a lot of questions. Yeah, when I was shopping around actually for my tablet, I had seen that they bundle a lot of games with the tablets they sell and things like that, so maybe that's how they're justifying it.
Maybe the Ouya is going to have a special contract with them running the online store through their network.
That's possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't see why they'd add a middleman, though, when you can shop right from your couch with the Ouya.
Right.
Yeah, maybe the Ouya software runs through that, so there is no middleman.
It might be just like an app on the Ouya, since it runs on phone software anyway.
Yeah.
I did have one thing to add. There's a rumor right now that the CEO of the Ouya has already said that they're going to try and release brand new hardware every year.
Okay, well, at
Really?
least I was right about something in the last podcast. I did say that I didn't think that the Ouya itself would probably, the original hardware model would last much longer than a year. At that price point, I mean, $100 for a year's worth of gaming, if it's not just an incremental improvement in hardware, I don't know, I'd bite. I don't think that's a bad deal.
Yeah, it makes sense because I think if they do update it every year, they're doing it to compete and stay on par with something
Well,
like iPhones, where they come out with a new updated iPhone every year, and at this point they're not really even that much updated. But but a lot of people pay a much higher price point per year than they would with Yuya to keep updating to the newest software, and the people who are playing games on that are playing the same kind of games that are going to be showing up on the Ouya. So it
Right.
makes sense to try and match that same psychology.
well,
I think
but
if people can justify spending, $50 and up for their online service for a year, they can
Exactly.
bite the bullet and drop 100 on a new piece of hardware.
Yeah.
I
Was
don't
anybody else?
let
Oh,
me.
sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't think this is going to be the case because the iPhone is more like a status symbol. People buy it just so they can say, "I have the newest iPhone.
Right.
I'm epic."
That's
And
true.
the Ouya, nobody is going to see it. And I mean, why do you need new hardware to play such simple games as Angry Birds? And I mean,
Yeah.
casual gamers don't want better games. They are totally fine with simple games, which
Right.
don't require much RAM and graphics power.
Well, yeah. If we want to talk about casual gamers wanting simple games, then that's a whole different discussion and the basis of why I really don't think the Ouya is going to succeed personally. But that's a whole different discussion, of course, which was on an episode I wasn't on, so we'll leave that be. But I
Um,
think I still wouldn't be surprised if they try doing that. The idea of updating it every year, at least at first, just because I mean we see that it won't succeed that well because people think of iPhones more as a status symbol. But I don't know if I don't know. I can see them still trying that for a couple years just to see if the effect stays. I mean, a lot of companies do. I don't know where I was going with this. I'm
was
done.
anybody
Never
else?
mind.
Was anybody else floored to see that Kickstarter being a success?
Not
Like,
I
really.
was
I
personally.
was
A little
actually.
bit.
Really, when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's an interesting idea, but nobody's gonna fund that. They want $950,000. No way. They
Smashed
get
it.
8 million.
Smashed it.
Exactly.
They
Yeah,
get
here's
8
the
million.
thing. I don't know. Personally, I don't think in any way that there's so many people who subscribe to the idea that mobile games and the kind of things that the Ouya is marketing are the future of gaming and are eventually going to somehow kill console games. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. That's one of the biggest loads of bullshit I've heard in my time paying close attention to the gaming industry. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
but
though. I mean, I
well,
want to agree with what you're saying,
okay,
but look
so
at games like Farmville and all that. They're making so much
like,
money off the simple, mindless shit that honestly, the
Well,
stuff we care
all
about,
right, so
we're no. Keep
can I
going.
finish?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just finish my sentence. I think, personally, I think that, but there are so many people who do advocate the idea. Like, even now, even a couple years, like a good few years after Farmville came out, Angry Birds became a thing. After this whole debate of mobile games as viable gaming and casual games as a viable part of gaming became a debate, there are still enough people that advocate that being the future that I can easily see there being enough people with money to spare that it would drive it. Even though I don't think it's going to
Right.
succeed, I wasn't at all surprised, honestly, that it came to fruition.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah, how
see
do you
mobile
guys
game.
feel?
I don't think you can kill the console market because of one reason. There's a huge market share for consoles and hardcore gamers, like many Call of Duty players call themselves. And all I want to say is, uh, casual gamers are normal people which are not interested in consoles, but those people interested in consoles are probably not going to only play stuff like Farmville. They want good stuff.
Right.
They want to upgrade their system. They want to upgrade their PCs, even if it costs thousands of dollars to play the best game on the highest settings.
Right.
Now, on that note, also, you're seeing a lot of stuff from mobile games bleed over into console releases. Now, the most relevant thing I can think of and most recent would be Ubisoft's decision to integrate just a tremendous amount of downloadable content that you can buy for Dead Space. Why did I say Ubisoft? I'm sorry, Visceral Games. Their decision to integrate all the downloadable content into Dead Space 3, and they justified it by saying that the current generation of gamers grew up with cell phones and are so used to microtransactions that really that's the way to justify it. They didn't blame it on corporate greed. They blame it on the 19-year-olds who grew up with cell phones. So what do you guys think of that?
I grew up with cell phones and I hate DLC. That's my
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. Like I don't know. I've never used microtransaction stuff in games. I can see using it if it's just an occasional thing. Like if I'm playing Tiny Tower and I really need something and it's really annoying me, then maybe I'll pay $1 to get a bunch more dollars or whatever in the game. But yeah, DLC has just always bothered me in general. Planned DLC, and I don't know. I just don't understand.
DLC.
What?
On-disc DLC that Capcom
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on the on-disc DLC.
Yeah, on-disc DLC and planned DLC that the game is not complete without is what really bothered. Like, what was it? Final Fantasy 13-2, right?
Asura's Rift. You have two endings you need to buy.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Asura's Wrath and Final Fantasy 13-2 both had endings that were only accessible if you bought the DLC. That's ridiculous. And to me, that's the culmination of what's wrong with DLC. I don't mind if you want to put out some DLC a while after a game comes out. That's fine. Or if the game is like something with Borderlands. Like Borderlands 2, has had DLC come out that has been made for a while and planned for a while. But the game itself is expansive enough without it that it works out. But because it was a complete experience without that DLC. I don't have any of the DLC, and it's still a complete experience. But something like the microtransactions in Dead Space 3, it sounds like from what I know of it, it isn't really a complete experience, or becomes an incomplete experience if you don't do the microtransactions to some extent. That doesn't make any sense to me.
If you total, I believe it's $140 something if you were to download all the DLC that came released at same day for Dead Space 3. I mean, that's unreal. You're more than doubling the cost of the game. I don't know. It's asinine to me.
At a surface level, DLC can be a cool thing, like with patches and roster updates and whatnot. But then you get these like business heads in suits trying to use it for evil, and like they're kind of the reason why DLC has become such a bad word in our vocabulary today.
Right.
Because at a surface level, it's like, yeah, we can do so many neat things with it, but the business heads don't want to do any of these neat things.
Yeah.
They just want to
make
print money.
DLC, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword where it can be great, but it can also be abused. I mean, like Bethesda does minus horse armor. They do pretty good DLC. Forza, I'm a huge car guy. Forza releases car packs. I'm like, oh my god, this game already has 500 cars and they're still giving me more. Yes, I want them.
Right.
I love DLC like that. But yeah, day one DLC and on-disc DLC, I wouldn't even buy your game.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. And my friend Andrew, who's in the room with me while I'm recording this, actually just pointed this out to me. What's you guys' opinion? Well, just while we're on the topic of DLC, real quick, what's you guys' opinion of something like Skylanders, where basically all the figures that exist for that are pretty much like planned DLC? It's pretty much not any different than buying an extra character for a fighting game that was available from the start.
I think
what's your opinion of that?
Skylanders is actually a pretty good idea because they are trying to cash in on kids collecting everything. I remember myself when Pokemon got first released, I bought every figure, every comic, everything. I was so nuts of the Pokemon. And if I could take my figures and put them on the screen and also use them in-game, it would have just amazed me. I mean, you need to think of this of the perspective of a child, not of the perspective of something only.
And I'll say that firsthand because we have Skylanders, and my son loves just running up to the little pedestal and dropping the figure on there and watching him appear. I mean, the kid's eyes light up. It's a cool concept, and really, I can't knock him for that. And have you guys seen these figures? How detailed they are?
Yes,
actually, $7 a pack. I really can't argue with that.
It's like Monster Rancher, except a little bit different and kind of more awesome. I wish I had this when I was growing up. Like,
That was a cool
jeez.
idea,
Yeah.
though, Monster Rancher.
Yeah.
And,
Actually,
and there's one thing why this is way better than DLC. Let's say 10 years from now, we are still collecting games and we want to go back and beat Asura's Wrath, but we can't because the PSN doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
yeah.
And we can't get the DLC. But this figure DLC, we can still get them used probably pretty cheap online on eBay or something.
Yeah.
And they'll still work.
All right, my friend who pointed this out actually wants to talk real quick if I can pass the mic to him.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please do.
Here you go.
No.
Hello there, I'm Andrew. I agree, the Skylanders concept is really cool. You know, it's something that I wish I had when I was younger, concept, if it had been something where I was more familiar with. I feel like the concept of the idea shouldn't be Spyro, but that's another story. I feel like all the characters shouldn't be needed to go to all the parts of the game, because I know my little brother got like 20 of them for Christmas. He can't access some of the parts without having, you know, the zombie Skylander.
Well,
or
you only need to buy a few of them, like five more, because you need one of every element. It's not like you say you need every single one or you need one which is called this. They have, like Pokemon, some kind of categories. You have one which is water, you have one which is fire, and you need one which is a fire type to go through flames.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see
but
how that could be like. I can see how that could be like construed as sort of like evil marketing, but it's also kind of builds its own universe that's consistent within the video game itself. That can kind of go either way, it seems.
And
Right.
they also are used to save the data of the figures on. So if you have a figure which is the highest level, you can take that figure from the first game and put it into the second game, and it still has the same attacks, the same levels, and skills and everything.
Right, and that actually works on the 3DS version too. You can level up your figure on
Yeah,
say,
they're
like the PS3,
cross-platform.
take it to the 3DS version, still level up, play it on the 3DS version, which actually has different levels and is a different game. Continue leveling it up there, and bring it back to your PS3, and you have all those levels from the 3DS also.
And you can also
Yeah,
use
it's
them.
really hard to find the fault in that. It's brilliant.
You can
Yeah.
also use them on the iPhone and iPad apps.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a little code on the back of every card which comes with the figures. You need to type the code into the iPad, and you have the figures.
Now, isn't Disney, aren't they planning to scuttle Skylanders' success with their own product?
Are they?
Yeah, I
I
heard about that.
Yeah, what's the news on that?
I've heard they're yeah, it's basically Disney Skylanders. You know, they're branding it. I think they're talking about coming with like 5 figures or so. Basically, a whole Disney World. Just
Disney Infinity,
Fuck
that's
figures.
the name.
yeah.
Huh.
Honestly, as a kid, I think I'd find that awesome. Like, I don't. It'd
Well,
be
look
like
at the
taking my
characters
Pikachu
they
and
have
going
to
to
tap
Disneyland.
into
Like,
there. I mean, it's insane.
Well, and yeah, another plus for that I like, because I've actually watched a lot of Skylander stuff, because Classic Game Room, he's probably reviewed every single figure out there. But he recently got into Skylanders Giants, and all of the figures from the original Skylanders still work in Skylanders Giants. So you've already bought all these figurines for original Skylanders, and you can still use them on the new game, and that's just even more genius.
And they carry over the data, so you have a
Right.
reason to use the same figure.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
is kind of
think-
like developers doing something that doesn't totally suck for once. Like,
Right.
Something with the gamers in mind, actually.
Yeah, they
and
also
that goes
have
in-
they
Oh.
also have rare figures, which if you buy a pack and you are lucky, you can get the figure you wanted, but only in gold, which is stronger and is completely made out of gold in-game and is painted in gold on the figure.
Okay, now we're coming back to palette swaps. I'm not as crazy about that.
Well, only if you're lucky,
Well, no, see,
which is
that's-
kinda nice for the kids.
That's the
Yeah.
version. Like if you're playing like Magic the Gathering and you get a card that's a foil, that's basically their version
Right,
of a
right.
foil.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
or like Bionicles with gold masks and stuff.
Or
Right.
shiny
Yeah, oh my
Pokemon.
god.
Shiny
We just
Pokemon
talked
are
about
the same.
Bionicles for an hour.
Oh, I love Bionicles.
I'm in a
Yeah.
basement full of them, actually. I will not lie. Anyway.
So, should we go to the next news?
Sure.
Oh yeah, go for it.
How did we get this guy?
Okay.
Again?
to go from an idea which is probably going to fail to something which will innovate the entire market, the Oculus Rift. The Oculus Rift is, as many of you know, because we talked about it 2 podcasts ago, is a virtual reality headset which can hook up to all your consoles and to your PC, and it basically allows you to be inside a game. Well, there was one big flaw up till now. You weren't able to use it if you had glasses or contact lenses. So, Ronnie, you're wearing glasses, aren't you?
Yes.
You were probably sad if a console came out and you can't use it because you're wearing glasses.
Actually, no. I have 20/20 vision in my right eye, so my left eye is just sort of like just there for depth perception. So actually, if I watch 3D movies, I can take my glasses off and just wear the 3D glasses and be just fine. But I'm lucky. I'm a special case.
Yeah, but I mean in general, it's some
Yeah, I
people
hate to. I kind of like destroyed your example. You're like, yes, I'm going to use Ronnie with his glasses. It's going to be perfect. I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
exactly.
actually,
You destroyed this entire
Throw a monkey wrench
segue.
in the whole
Why?
analogy.
So let's say,
yes, I'd be absolutely devastated.
okay,
Ah, gee willikers.
okay, that's
Well,
good.
again.
So, and now you aren't that unlucky. So you can move this screen forward and backward to adjust how big your glasses are. And you can use different lenses which are already corrected for your eyes. So if you have, give me a second, just going to be get it out. If you are nearsighted, you can use the lenses B and C, and if you're farsighted, you can use C. It's pretty good, and A is for normal people. With this concept,
So what? He's not normal.
Wait, are you saying I'm not normal?
I think that's what he said.
Are you calling Ronnie asymmetrical?
he's asymmetrical in the eyes.
Aren't you a sweetheart?
Totally. It's the detail you need to look into.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And with this, you're going to be able to use the Rift, no matter what your eyesight is.
Even if you're not normal.
Even if you're not normal. Well, normal in like most of the humans on the planet have good eyes. And like
So he's subhuman? This coming from our German correspondent.
but
Is he an Untermensch? Come on, man.
we here in German have many experiences with this stuff, and we know how to handle those Untermenschen.
More news. Mach schnell. Dali dali.
Well,
Racist.
Jay wanted to talk about something which is
Oh, yeah.
really pissing him off. Jay, why
All right, all right. For the record, this isn't just me jumping around being angry. This is a lot of people jumping around being angry, as we like to do. So all right. Ubisoft, creator of Rayman Legends, which people might remember I talked about as one of my most anticipated games of this year. Creator of Rayman Origins, which was a pretty good critical success last year, or a couple years ago now. Rayman Legends was set for release on, I believe, the 26th of this month, and a couple days ago, Ubisoft made the announcement that about 2 weeks from when it was supposed to launch, the game is getting delayed until September. Why, you may ask? Because, and sorry, my friend Andrew is currently flipping off my computer in anger at this. Because they decided they wanted to make it multi-platform, and Now, okay, so the thing about this,
So
they
that one
decided they wanted to make it
promisingly
multi-platform.
exclusive is no longer exclusive.
Exactly, and that's not the problem here. It's really not. If they want to do that, that's fine. The problem is, let me reiterate, the game was supposed to be released in 2 weeks. The game
So
is,
it's
for
already
all
gone
intents,
gold.
yeah, for all intents and purposes, it is finished. It is completely finished, and there have been interviews with members of the development team for this game who have talked about the fact that they didn't even know about this until we knew about it. That this decision came up from pretty much the highest people up in Ubisoft and no one else. And that they were not told about it until we were told about it. So after having been told for months, you need to hurry up and finish this game. We got to get it out by February. We need to this big push to get it out on time because there was a lot of anticipation for it. The demo for this game was the main demo you'd see on Wii U units everywhere. It's, I think, the only demo currently available in the Wii U shop. people were getting excited for this game, and so they were pushing to make sure they wouldn't have to delay it at the last minute. And so there were people who had to ignore their families, miss a lot of personal stuff in order to work extra hours on finishing this game. And then 2 weeks from its launch, at a point where pretty much all they had to do at this point was print the copies, ship them out. At this point, to announce, oh, hey, we're actually delaying it for upside of 6 months so we can put it on other consoles too, just comes off as the most... I'm not even sure exactly how to describe the lunacy of the decision.
Surely it's not beneficial to them. I mean, you're sitting on money.
Exactly. Well, You're sitting on money, and what really I think is interesting about this is how much they didn't see the backlash coming from this. I'm sure it's going to have a similar effect to whenever there's, whenever in the next dumb Call of Duty game, there's some new controversial thing that's somehow more controversial than all the other controversial things in Call of Duty.
Right.
And there are people who are like, oh, I'm going to boycott this game. I'm not going to buy it. Every single one of those people winds up buying it on its release day anyway.
Right.
I have a couple Call of Duty tired friends who fall into that category. But with this, I hear so many people just saying, I'm not going to buy this game. I canceled my pre-order. There is dedication behind the hatred of this decision. There are petitions to get this decision changed. And I'm not against that. I think if we could get this changed, that's a good idea. Because if you want to put the game on other consoles, that's fine. But there's no reason the existing version of this game could not be released. The only thing you're going to do by releasing the existing version of the game is piss people off, and you would be shocked by how vehemently people are getting pissed off about this. Myself included, obviously, because I'm ranting.
Honestly,
Right, now,
I would
and
be...
to put this in, Trevor?
I was just going to say, I would be surprised by this if this was any other company besides Ubisoft.
Why is that?
Activision, maybe.
Well, I mean, Ubisoft is another one
Ubisoft.
of those companies that has been doing a lot of, the more questionable higher up decisions. I mean, for instance, like the last couple of years with their online only, constantly online DRM for a lot of their games and stuff. And it seems like they're just one of the newer high tier of evil corporations like Activision and EA.
I suppose I can see that. But even beyond, evil decisions, evil corporation, this is just such a dumb
Backwards
leap of
decision.
logic. Exactly.
And to put it in perspective, when did you say this is coming out? September now?
Yeah, sometime in September. Who knows if it might get delayed again? Because the thing about it is, we know the Wii U version is going to be the definitive version of this game just by the nature of the game. There's
Right.
stuff involved with the gamepad in the game that you can't do in a 360 or PS3 version.
Right.
And Andrew is moving his hands around trying to do sign language to say his opinion. Speak, child.
Okay. After
Pisses me
Andrew
off.
goes, I go. I'm
This
raising
is-
my hand.
Sorry.
Rayman
I'm
Legends.
interrupting
was-
Andrew.
Oh.
I'm
Sorry,
Keep
you're
going,
so
man.
sad.
I'm just making sure.
So Rayman Legends was one of the main reasons I bought the Wii U. It was actually supposed to come out in November, but Nintendo was like, push it back to February because they didn't want it competing with Mario, the other main platforming game on the Wii U. And okay, it's coming out 2-3 weeks. I'm excited. I've got money down on it. I'm ready to pick it up. And then Jay drops this, bomb on me on Thursday,
Don't blame me.
and it's horseshit. And the time that they're going to release it, September, they're competing with, Grand Theft Auto 5 especially,
Right,
which
right.
definitely won't help with sales, and like Jay said, the Wii U is going to be the definitive version of the game with the touchpad and the guy thing, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the industry's going to hit with its annual wave of sequelitis at the same exact time that's coming out. I mean, it's not doing them any favors.
And you know what's actually the craziest thing? This game has been delayed for an entire year.
That's exactly the point I was going to make, is the fact that, that demo was actually available, weeks before the Wii U was in stores. I think mid to late October
Yeah,
is
and
when
it
the
should be
demo
launch
Wii units
title.
actually showed up.
Yeah,
So
Andrew
people have
and I
been playing this game, and literally, I mean, the demo, when you release your demo a year before the game comes out, there's serious fucking problems coming from the top there.
One thing I'm wondering is if there's just some stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about and only Ubisoft execs know about. Because that seems like a really odd decision. I'm almost positive that there have to be other factors at play here that we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
That's what I'm curious about.
something Ubisoft is doing. They're to
They're
kind of
360 and PS3 edition game pads that are going to come with the game.
to kind of chill off the Wii U owners, they're releasing a special second demo for the Wii U shop. Ooh,
Oh boy, 6 more months of
whole
anticipation.
It's and something else that pisses me off. I don't understand why they can't release it for the Wii U since it's practically done. I mean, there's plenty of other games that came out on 360 and PS3 first that was ported to Wii U, like Batman or Mass Effect 3. Definitely just release it for the Wii U. You're going to make money. I bought the Wii U mainly for this.
Same here. This among a few other things.
And I don't want to wait another 7 months to be able to play it.
Another thing you have to wonder. I'm sorry, Ronnie.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I'm just wondering if there's just something like going on, like if there's some kind of, I don't want to say legal battle, but some kind of executive battle behind the scenes that we just don't know about.
That's what it sounds like, especially if the actual developers had no idea. What really interests me is, with 2 weeks before the game's supposed to be in stores, that's around the time they'd actually start shipping out review copies. I wonder if any sources actually got one.
I actually, from what I know, I remember the night before this was announced, Rich George of IGN, who's like the head of the Nintendo team, tweeted out that there was going to be some interesting Nintendo news going on. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people got this news instead of the review copy. Like, they expected to get a review copy, and instead they got a guarantee of 6 months of sad waiting.
Yeah, pretty sad.
If someone could get their hands on such a review copy and burn it on a DVD and get them out illegally, this is going to give them a lot of money.
Yeah, we'll edit that part out before this is set out for mass consumption.
Yeah. What I'm really wondering is what Nintendo's stance on this is. Like, whether this decision, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's interesting because you listen to, I believe it was Platinum Games, or some company, whatever company's making the Wonderful 101, yesterday came out with a statement talking about how with their games and with Bayonetta 2, this is also true, that unless Nintendo says otherwise, those games are Wii U exclusive, and that's how it is working with Nintendo. So
it's going to have to be with Bayonetta. I mean, they're publishing the game.
Well, yeah. That's a whole other story. But what I'm wondering is, one, whether how far in advance Nintendo knew about this, and two, what their reaction to it now is, and three, how this is going to affect their relations with Ubisoft in terms of publishing games in the future.
Well, one thing's for sure. I mean, the Wii U software has been coming out at a really slow trickle since the system launched, and they could really have used it this month.
Yeah.
I really don't. What's the next big Wii U game to come out? I mean, I really can't even think off the top of my head.
Aliens Colonial Marines, but that's not an exclusive. That's not,
I guess it'd be the Wonderful 101.
Is it? Yeah.
When's that coming out?
Sometime in the spring, I believe.
Well, I know Monster Hunter Ultimate is coming out for both the Wii U and the 3DS next month, and I know
March. That's
for a fact that's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's
pretty lonely launch window, guys.
Yeah.
I remember being at E3 or watching E3 last year, and Ubisoft comes on stage and starts spouting all these incredible Wii U games. How they're basically like BFFs with Nintendo now, and this Rayman Legends deal is kind of a stab in the back.
Yeah.
So is that it for news, guys?
I guess so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, Trevor, why don't you lead us into the next topic?
Alrighty. Tradition we do here at HeyPoor Podcast is every week we ask, what you playing? And we go around and talk about what we've been playing. So, since you're the guest of honor, Ronnie, we'll start with you.
Nothing. I've been in the trenches working on the newest DNSQ, so I've kind of held myself away. But I'm probably going to be playing Super Metroid pretty soon here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Plan on doing a video on it, or?
Maybe. I'm not at liberty to speak about that.
Well, it has pretty good mechanics for an ego shooter which is built on an NES controller, basically, if you think about it that way. They could make a pretty good video. Wink, wink.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely have to think about that and write it down.
Marius?
I haven't been playing much besides Persona 4 Arena, which I'm actually playing every week at least once. And you know why I haven't been playing much? because I have been working day and night on the mobile version of Mushroom Tomatoes, and I still have 400 plus videos to edit for the mobile version. And if our readers don't appreciate this, something will happen to them.
Oh God, not again.
Oh,
Well,
I'm gonna
that's
wash
about
my
it for
brain
me.
out with soap.
That's
Jay.
about it for me.
Okay. Jay?
All right. Yeah, it's funny. I also haven't been playing a lot of stuff. I've been playing more Borderlands 2 recently. I just randomly hopped back into that. Kind of because I never got a character to level 50. Me and Andrew have a friend who just got a 360 not too long ago, and we're helping him get a couple characters up leveled, and I'm playing a lot of that with a few friends. What else have I been playing? Oh, Code of Princess on 3DS. I think I mentioned this before, but that's not a good game. Don't get it. It sucks. It's really bad.
Not a fan of Guardian Heroes, I take it.
I have never played
just
Guardian
saw-
Heroes. I'm sure it's what?
Sorry, I just saw Classic Game Room did a review of that, and he loved it.
It's so
Well-
fucking good.
All right, so here's the thing. It could be a good game. The real problem is, I don't even know what the real problem is. I just know it's a shoddily programmed game because it lags to the point where you literally, it lags your character down to the point where some of the tougher battles are the kind of battle where unless you get really lucky, you literally cannot do a single thing. Not even make a specific move. You cannot move your character before he is on you, just murdering the shit out of you.
That's not a
And
good thing for a beat 'em up.
Yeah, there's that, and the writing is also atrocious. Like the game's got like a very anime stylization, right? And that kind of carries over to the writing. You've got a lot of the stereotypical dumb anime characters, which annoy
How
me.
many have amnesia?
What?
Do any have amnesia?
Not yet. I
Not
would
yet.
not be
They're still
surprised. That
coming.
somehow they managed to jump over the biggest trope there. But the dialogue writing in this game is so atrocious that I want to go into writing for video games just so I can correct the catastrophic universal wrong that this game has caused the
Oh,
universe.
man.
It's that bad. Yeah.
I want to make a horrible career decision just so I can correct this.
Exactly.
I guess
Okay.
Andrew can talk if he wants.
Go, yeah, Andrew can, I guess, if he
I
wants.
guess.
Yes.
Only if he wants to.
I want, I haven't been really playing anything that came out recently. I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 2 with Jay, and I'm actually trying to catch up on my Humble Bundle library since I've bought in like 3 Humble Bundles that I haven't even touched. And I finally started getting around to Cave Story Plus from last Humble Bundle, and I was blown away. I heard it was great, but I don't know. It's definitely one game that's up there. And another thing I've been playing, I've set a goal for myself. I have to beat every single Legend of Zelda this year, but I have to do them in order. So, like, for the first time ever, I'm trying to beat the first Zelda game. And
I like how you say I have to do them in order, like you have some weird OCD condition going on there.
I'm doing it to push myself to actually beat the first 2 because I've played them before, but never beat them. It's difficult.
You better hope you're caught up by November so you can get the Wind Waker HD release chronologically into your list.
Yeah, I plan. I probably, since I don't want to play Wind Waker twice this year, but I probably will. I'll probably just skip it once I get to that order, because after I get Legend of Zelda and Awakening of Link done, I'll fly through the other games. I'll probably play Ocarina of Time 3 times in a row if I want to. It just I will. The first
Are you gonna do the CDI games?
Oh no, those are not.
boy.
My boy.
Seriously.
The first 2 games aren't actually that bad. I got a CDI for Christmas, and they're actually not that bad.
Andrew, I will track those down for you and buy them for
But
you.
the third game is
Play
the worst game ever. Get him that game. He has to play it.
No. Okay, how about I'll change it. I'm playing every Nintendo licensed.
Well,
No,
they are licensed by
Licensed, right.
Nintendo, but
Are
not
they
made
licensed?
by
Oh,
Nintendo.
They'd have to be.
You have
Okay,
to make them. You said it on air. You're bound by contracts.
That's right, a blood contract.
See,
Cut him, Jay. Cut him.
we'll see at the end of the year.
You heard it, guys. We are going to have him on as a special member next year, February.
We'll
Mark
have
your
Zelda.
calendars, everybody.
It's a new segment.
CDI
Every month we'll
games.
have Andrew's Zelda update. And we'll just see how far into depression he has fallen.
Yeah, and
He's
it's
gonna
probably
come
just
back an
him.
alcoholic with one leg.
It's probably just him screaming, "Oh no! Stop the pain!"
You don't know what I've seen, man.
How many CDI games?
I've ate Nocturux, man.
Oh god.
Tectoids too.
They were Dodongos. I had to bump them.
All
I
right,
caught that. I caught
So,
Frank?
thanks everybody for listening.
We're not done yet.
If you,
Cool.
we are, aren't we?
No.
No, Frank and
hasn't
Trevor.
done what you playing.
Oh, cut this.
Good job.
We don't
Hey,
care
he
about
got his out. I mean, we didn't really matter. Kick us
Yeah.
to the curb.
Yeah. The creator of HeyPoorPlayer sure doesn't matter. That would be
Yeah.
silly.
That's
And the
right.
guy recording the show doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody matters besides the special guests.
I just play
They are
games
the
nobody
reason
else
we get
likes.
clicks.
You are a German engineered douche machine.
Wow.
Getting vicious here in the outtakes.
No, this stays in
We said this was
because I like it.
All right, moving on, Trevor.
Still unpacking, but I managed to fit some gaming in there. I've been playing some more Forza Horizon lately. We recently bought all of the DLC for Fallout New Vegas, so I'll be revisiting that pretty soon once I get some more free time. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I've been working on the site a lot the past couple weeks. I haven't really had much time myself for gaming. I have had a chance to fire up the arcade machines a bit, though, and I've sunk some time into Metal Slug 3 and Metal Slug X, along with some House of the Dead. And really, that's all I've been good for is about 5 or 10 minutes at a time, just quick fix stuff. I'm going to try to jump into Fire Emblem Awakening tonight, though, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that. Is anyone else playing it?
Me and Andrew have both been freaking out about it. I played the GBA one that was released on the 3DS for the Ambassador program was the only one I played, but I'm really excited to check this out. It's been getting really great reviews.
Oh,
a lot
God,
better than
yeah.
I expected.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the Shining Force games. I don't know if any of you guys are really into those, and I've just been watching my wife in bed pretty much every night messing with that, and yeah, I can't wait to jump into it. It looks fantastic. It looks right up my alley.
That sentence taken out of context is so horrible.
What?
I wasn't going to say it, but
Oh, but
we're
Yeah.
all immature here.
Totally.
Yep.
This podcast
Francis.
is not for mature audiences.
hey, prepubescent player.
So, Francis, why don't you tell our listeners how are you going to improve your site over the next few weeks?
Oh yeah, we're actually working on upgrading the forums to a different platform. That should be coming to fruition, I guess, sometime in the next day or so. We're actually just waiting for a plugin update, and after that, we should be good to go. So hopefully, barring some catastrophic failure that blasts the site into the ground, we should have a new forum up. So definitely check back at HeyPoorPlayer.com and keep an eye on the forums for something big.
Shall I take us out then?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
All right. So, if you want more of the magic and camaraderie that you have heard tonight on HeyPoor Podcast, you can check us out at HeyPoorPlayer.com and Marius's site, MushroomTomatoes.com. You can find us on Twitter at HeyPoorPlayer. You can find our Tumblr, which is hppofficial.tumblr.com. Anything else I'm forgetting, guys?
Podcast
Nope.
is on.
Can I plug my
iTunes
episode?
and Stitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Alright,
your
the
shit.
newest episode of Digressing and Sidequesting is out today, so just go to YouTube, type in Digressing and Sidequesting, you'll find it. Or
And
youtube.com/Matthew
And
Patrick
it's
30.
also on MushroomTomatoes.com.
Oh yeah, it's also on
Yeah.
Mushroom Tomatoes, so watch it there if you can.
Yeah, be sure to check out his stuff. Check out everything else on Game Theory. And while you're on HeyPoorPlayer, like Frank was saying, new forums, so check those out. Some new members will be really cool. We get some good discussions going on there, but it'll be nice to have more people to contribute to them. So, that's about it. So, until next time, thanks for listening to another awesome episode of HeyPoor Podcast.
And thanks, Ronnie, for joining us.
Oh, it has been your honor.
Yeah. Holy shit, there's ham in my sandwich.